All right, thank you everyone for joining thus far. If you are joining, if you don't mind chiming in on the chat to everyone, your name and your team, just so we start to get to know who's on here and we can connect. Feel free, I know some people have been putting their LinkedIn profile link. Feel free to do that so you guys can connect to each other. Definitely want this to be an opportunity for us to network and most importantly, learn and grow from talking with each other. And I love all these faces I see on camera. Thank you. Yay. All right. So as we have everyone chiming in, just a couple announcements. Number one, the recording and notes from last week's fan experience discussion are out on ticketplaybook.com. So if you get a moment, go out there. We are going to move to Tuesday next week, and Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. We're going to talk corporate groups and how you can, streamline and grow corporate groups. So we will have that discussion next Tuesday, and the registration for that is out there on ticketplaybook.com as well. So that is live, and you can go ahead and chime in there. We'd still love for you to suggest some different topics if you have a topic you want us to discuss, even if it's something outside of group sales. So we even talked about, we could talk about all sorts of different things. If there's other things you want to learn from this group, we want to be able to help and bring the discussion together. We even talked about doing like a Tales of the Group Sales Rep, like let's just share our war stories, because we all have those, right? The kid that was on the court that threw up on the court 10 minutes before the game, that's happened to me. All those kind of crazy stories, those would be kind of fun to share too. So if you have ideas, feel free to reach out to us and share them, because we definitely want to keep these conversations going. So without further ado, I want to introduce Thomas Eugene, who you guys have, if you've been on any of these conversations, he's definitely been an active participant, and we love that. And one of the things that I think Thomas and his team have done some really cool things around is with regards to categories and group sales categories, and the way that they approach their categories and the events and the different things that they've done with their categories. So we had a conversation and talked about him coming on to really share some best practices of what they do. And then we want to expand the conversation and talk about other ideas of what teams are doing. So the goal is to really understand, like, what are key categories? What are growing categories and opportunities for us? How do you maximize categories in your marketplace? And then talking about events, like how do we create events and things that are applicable to our categories? So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Thomas. And if he does shout out cheers or like step away for a second, his team is in the heat of a battle right now. So we're rooting for the Panthers right now. Sorry, Islander fans. We're rooting for the Panthers to pull through for them today. So go ahead, Thomas.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I certainly appreciate the kind introductions. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So I guess a few months ago, I had the pleasure of hopping on to one of these ticket playbooks. And since then, it's something that I fell in love with, right, in terms of having really good conversations, in terms of something that we are all passionate about. So before I even start, I want to take a second, Denise and Emmanuel, if you don't mind. I'd love to introduce you guys to my awesome team that works here with the Florida Panthers. So with that being said, we have our group sales manager he's the group sales manager of activation. We have Zach Eisenberg. We also have Ryan Vanderfort, group sales manager, a group sales rep. We have John, I'm speaking the future for you, as you can see. We also have John Pettinelli, we call him Mr. South Beach. We have Mercy Lavandera. We have Roy Especia, and we have Ted Doherty. So that's the team. I'm not missing anyone, am I? Oh, I'm sorry. We have Scott Wolf as well. So thank you very much. And these are the guys that I ride and die with every day as we try to find creative ways to put the cheeks in the seats, if you will. So one of the things that we realized was a huge opportunity. We've done a pretty good job when it comes down to working with like nonprofits and working with different cheer and dance groups and everything. But we realized that there was an area of opportunity that we felt that we need to maximize, right? And that's working, unfortunately, Denise, I know this is a topic that you guys are gonna talk about next week, is dealing with corporations, right? So one of the things that we've done is that right off the bat, we went ahead and split our teams up in different task force, right? So we have about 6 different task force amongst our team, right? So task force could be anywhere from education, finance, healthcare. We also have law and legal. We have dance and cheer, faith and family, and then we also have a few more. We have civic organizations as well. So our goal is to say, all right, with these 6, 7 different categories, how do we take that opportunity and just really penetrate the market? So when we look at those 6, 7 different categories, what we said to ourselves is like, all right, let's find out everything that we could find out about these categories. Healthcare, for example. Under healthcare, you have hospital and healthcare administration. You have nurses association. You have ophthalmology. You have optometry. You have podiatry. You have dentistry. So when you think about it, these are corporate individuals that typically meet already. These are groups of people that meet. We call them different associations, right? So a couple of weeks ago, we partnered up with our good friends from the New York Jets, and they have fine-tuned their skills in figuring out and maneuvering their way around LinkedIn. So we connected with them. They gave us some few tidbits. And through LinkedIn, there's a Google search you could do through LinkedIn and find out everything that you could find out about different associations. So that was extremely, extremely helpful. We took full advantage of that, gave us the opportunity to really know a little bit more about how to fine tune with LinkedIn. But this is something we've been working on since we sort of like went on this whole pandemic, if you will. So in March, we didn't skip a beat whatsoever. My team and I, we say, all right, although we're working from home, there's a lot of things that's totally out of our control. But what we can control is how do we penetrate the market? And since then, we put these categories together. We work with different industries, and that's how we went ahead and just straight did an all-out blitz and figured out everything we could find out about each and every single organizations.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Thomas, one question about your task force. I know we talked a little bit about this the other day, but do you guys then, if there is, say, for example, finance, do you guys pull in your finance professionals as people on the task force to give you guys insight on, you know, their world or their associations? Like, how does that work across different departments in your office?
Yeah, so that's a good question. The assets that we have within the organization, we're gonna take advantage of it on the back end, and let me tell you why. What we've been doing for the past several months is not only do we have these task force organizations that we're reaching out to, not only are we reaching out to, like, for example, finance. Under finance, you have the CPA associations. Under CPA associations in South Florida, you have the Cuban American CPA Association. You have the Black CPA Association. You had the Finance Realtors Group Associations. So as we take a deeper dive into it, what I've done is that we went ahead and reach out and identified the industry influencers and allow them to be part of a Zoom professional speaker series, if you will. So every couple weeks, we bring the best of the best in that industry to come in through Zoom, obviously, and talk to us about everything that they know about their background, where they're from, how long they've been in that industry, talk about the highs and lows, the peaks and valleys, and then we dig deeper and ask them different questions as it relates to that specific industry. So for example, an industry that we're doing a very good job in terms of searching is the legal industry. So with the legal industry, law legal, we went ahead and invited a gentleman, his name is Travis Randolph. He is the incoming president of the Black Lawyers Association in South Florida, Miami-Dade County. So we invited him in on a Zoom call. He told us everything that we needed to know about legal, right? Little did we know that under bar associations in South Florida, you have 3 major counties. We have Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach counties. Each county has a bar association. Under each bar association, you have different subgroups of bar associations. Like for example, in South Florida, we have the Russian Bar Association, we have the LGBTQ Bar Association, we have the Women's Bar Association, we have the Haitian American Bar Association, we have the Jamaican Bar Association. So all these associations are groups that already exist, and we just giving them a different opportunity of how we take that relationship and create a paradigm shift in terms of moving forward.
That's awesome. With these influencers that you asked to come on the calls with you, do you provide them anything to say, you know, for sharing their knowledge with you guys? Are you guys providing them tickets or swag or something?
Yeah, so one of the things that we've done is that we set out, myself and Zach Eisenberg, we put together some basic questions of what we're going to prearrange questions. And then from there, on the back end of that conversation, we open it up to the entire sales floor and have them ask questions about their professional career and everything that we need to know about. How do we knock on the doors for a law firm to do business with us? How do we identify the low-hanging fruit? How do we create the IMIs? What is it that attorneys are looking for in order to do business with the Florida Panthers and the BB&T Center? And then from there, we go ahead and send them a nice little care package, right? Which will include a t-shirt, a cap, a puck, a business card, a handwritten note. In fact, the other individual that we invited a couple weeks ago was a judge. His name is Judge Fred Serafin. Great judge. He's the first appointed judge, Haitian judge in the state of Florida. He was appointed back in 2000, I think 2003, 2004 by then Governor Jeb Bush. So he came in and spoke to us, took an hour out of his time. So once he spoke, we went ahead and sent him a thank you letter, sent him a t-shirt, puck, cap, and everything. So that's our way of saying thank you. And what we want to do ultimately, once things get back to normal, whatever that looks like, we want to be able to invite our external influencers, invite them to a suite for a game. Like, for example, the presidents of these bar associations, the presidents of these nurses association, invite them to a game on us, take good care of them. Because once they like us, then we get everything that we need to get from them in terms of cultivating that relationship.
Absolutely. No, this is great. Are you guys using any influencers from your season ticket base?
Yeah, that's a good question. And yes, we are. In fact, one of our season ticket members is actually president of the Broward County Dental Association. He's a season ticket holder. He was happy to hop on a call with me. We talked about what we're looking at doing. We found out everything that we need to know about the dental industry, right? Like, for example, they meet once a month. When they meet once a month, they have about 70 to 80 attendees that meet once a month. They have a guest speaker, and they do fundraising events, and doing something with the Panthers is something that they're certainly open to doing.
Fantastic. Does anyone else have questions for Thomas and his staff about some of the things that they do before we jump into other ideas?
Sure.
No questions? Are other teams doing similar things where they're gathering information from influencers on specific industries before they go out and really, dive into them?
Jason, I'll go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Dan.
Yeah, Dan Tamoro from the Sound Tigers. So I'm on the opposite side of Thomas here, since we're the Islanders affiliate.
Sorry.
I'm watching the game as well too. So while I'm talking, you might hear my wife shriek out if they score. But
can somebody provide me with the score, please?
It's 3-1 right now, but that's
3-1
all right.
Panthers. Okay.
Yeah, 3-1 Panthers right now, but that's all right. We got a couple of games in hand, so it's okay. No, on our end, especially with businesses, that's definitely the same approach that we're taking, is going after the larger organizations top down, so that if we can connect with a dental association, for example, not only could they host some sort of event themselves with their members coming out, but then each of their members is a potential other opportunity for a group itself. And once that association is going to be, like Thomas said, they like us, they like what we do, they're going to obviously provide referrals and references to all of those groups to be able to say that we did this, we enjoy working with them, you will too. And we're probably doing that across all of our categories. We actually just shifted to a category model from a territory model pretty much during the last 5 months. So it's actually kind of been helpful for us to not have to worry about games as much, to just be able to gather that info and do the extra digging of research right now.
Good stuff.
Great. So with the I know, say for example, corporate categories are a little easier to find information, but I know one of the things back, and this is a while back, but when I was at the Hawks and Thrashers overseeing group sales, being able to get a full understanding of all of the faith-based organizations in a marketplace, or all of the dance groups, or all of the cheer groups. Those are a little bit more difficult to wrangle and to understand that you're really maximizing the opportunity there. So how do you guys, and this is for anyone, how do you guys maximize opportunity there? Or know that you're maximizing opportunity? Or maybe we don't.
I would say same approach. Like in the Connecticut area, we've found, like, for dances, there's a statewide dance association. There's a statewide gymnastics association. We have, for at least the Catholic faith, diocese, there's a couple of different dioceses throughout the state that then oversee the majority of the churches throughout the state. So going through them, kind of the same approach, connect with them, the head people at each one of those, to be able to then have them connect us to each church, or for them to be able to put together some sort of diocese event that then their members and their parishioners who follow them and trust them will know that, not to say it's safe to do an event with us, but they'll have more faith in it. No pun intended.
No, I think that's a very good one. If you don't mind, I'd like to go ahead and pass that over to Ted Doherty. He did a very good job in working with the Dance and Cheer Association. Ted, if you want to talk about one of your success stories.
Yeah, sure. So Cheer and Dance is one of the task forces that we've been going after over the last few months. So I was able to reach out to the U.S. Cheer Association, which is a branch off of the National U.S. Cheer Association. There's a local one down here in South Florida in Parkland. So I connected with him. I called just like their general number, and the president and CEO actually picked up. So a little bit lucky there, but I had a great conversation with him, and he's basically looking to host a event for Cheer and Dance in March called like their U.S. Open event, which is usually a couple thousand athletes that take part in this event. He's actually actively looking for a venue. They have already a current venue pinned down, but they'd like to get a larger one for the event. So they're hoping to be able to host it here at the BB&T Center for the first time. They haven't done that before. They've hosted events with the Miami Heat before, a lot of times actually, and the Miami Dolphins, but not with the Florida Panthers. So I was able to get him, we did like a virtual appointment. So we used Microsoft Teams for that with myself, with Thomas, and with Zach Eisenberg there. And we're just able to open the discussion a little bit more, learn a little bit more about their events, how they're put together, who are the different athletes. And honestly, we learned a lot from him. I mean, he's a huge Florida Panthers fan. We didn't know that. He loves the BB&T Center. He says it would be an ideal location for one of their events. So we're pretty much on board for hosting this event. It would be in March. Of course, we have to wait for the schedule for us to come out to make sure that we can do it. But you know, if everything aligns right with the schedule, then we should be able to do it. And of course, since he's worked with the Heat, he knows how it would be attached to a game ticket, which he's all good with. So most likely be on a dark day. All the members would have the ability to choose between 2 different games, and that would all be included like in their package when they're buying their way into the tournament. It would include the Florida Panthers, pick these 2 different games, and we're all good to go. So that was really successful. One, I know it's been tough reaching out to a lot of Cheer and Dance. A lot of them are closed down right now, but that particular association, you know, they said yes and really opened the door.
I mean, awesome. Yeah. So some of the great things about what we're doing is like we ask ourselves, and this is something that we do every day. It's like we challenge ourselves in terms of how are we able to find success, right? What does success look like for you for today, right? It may not always be, especially for the past few months and even moving forward, success may not always be charging a credit card and getting somebody to say, yes, I'm ready to purchase. Success could be, wow, I built a relationship with an organization, with the president who is actually a Panthers fan and is looking forward to doing something massive with us at the BB&T Center. So Ted, you know, awesome job on that. So once Ted was able to identify the individual, we went ahead and hop on a Zoom call, and we have Zach Eisenberg on a Zoom call as well, because as the group sales manager of activation, it's his responsibility to make sure we have all the, he oversee a lot of the inventory as well as the logistical aspects of putting these events together. So it's been a great win. It's been a lot of fun, and we challenge ourselves. We don't necessarily compete against each other, but we compete against how were we yesterday, right? compare yourself to the day before, not comparing yourself to your cube mate.
Absolutely.
Denise, I've got something to add to this.
Yeah.
First of all, dance and cheer are not my category, so I'm not an expert in this area. But I did learn something about dance and cheer that is probably very helpful. Is that they have competitions all the time, and I'm a strong believer in if they want people to come to my games, I got to go to theirs. So if you just put your ear to the ground and try to find dance competitions, you have two things. First of all, they get to see you. And second of all, you're interacting with people that have already accepted the risks of the current environment. A lot of us are going to be in a situation where paradoxically, we're going to have less inventory and higher prices. And group tickets, of course, the demand for group tickets is very price elastic. And so all of those sorts of things will put you in a situation where if you have an estimate of how many tickets are going to be available, it's going to vary depending on the size of your facility and your season ticket base, because you want to take care of your season ticket base as best you can, because any losses in certain season ticket base are more or less permanent, because demand for season tickets is going to be price inelastic. And so if they shift away from you, they're going to find substitutes, and they're going to be harder to bring back. Groups paradoxically maintain the relationships with them. I believe that you can do almost everything up to the point of sale. And then when your venue needs the people to come in, you've got the relationships to move those forward.
Good point.
Yes, good points. And I saw, Brian had a question about, is there anything specific to search membership associations on LinkedIn? And Brandon had chimed in about Sales Navigator. Is that your experience too, Thomas? The conversation you were having with the Jets, is that how you guys were searching?
Yeah, so like I said, Jet's been extremely helpful with that. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna pass this over to Mercy. Mercy had a good meeting with her counterpart over at Jets. Mercy, if you don't mind, give them a couple ideas of what you did regarding the LinkedIn search.
Yeah, so it was pretty simple. On LinkedIn, on the top where you have the search bar, when you search, it has like a filter area. So you click on there and it's kind of just like a drop bar. It gives you everything that you need in order to make a search. The area, the company, the organization type. So if you're looking for construction, if you're looking for legal, you're looking for law, or if you're simply just looking for someone within a specific organization, like if we're searching for someone in the Blackhawks or within the Jets or anything like that, you could put the industry on there. So it's pretty simple, and it's a lot of great usage, especially for us down here. You put the Miami Fort Lauderdale area, you search the organization that you're looking for, the association, and you just get a bunch of the important people on there. So pretty helpful tool. I didn't really know much about that before, and the Jets were able to help us out with that. So really helpful moving forward.
Yeah, and so that's without Sales Navigator. That's just literally going to LinkedIn as a non-paid user and searching. Perfect.
Correct. Yeah, so
Awesome.
so another advantage point that we had since the quarantine is that we've been able to cultivate some really unique and profound relationships with folks from around the league, right? Like, for example, we have peer-to-peer with Dallas Stars, the Islanders, the Devils, the Houston Texans, the Oilers. Good, I'm in the meeting. Yeah, the Oilers, Blackhawks, Coyotes. So yeah, and those relationships have really been extremely helpful to myself along with my team for a couple of reasons. One is that you get an opportunity to check out the temperature gauge of what's happening on the other side of the country. And at the same time, we're building these relationships moving forward in terms of figuring out best practices.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree with you. Other best practices on categories, or, I know Thomas mentioned the number of categories with, civic groups, dance and cheer, faith and family, education, corporate. What other kind of categories are out there that teams are working with or working on that we aren't mentioning, or what are some kind of emerging categories that you're finding?
Yeah, I could jump into this, Denise.
Thanks, Nick.
With me being new to the Detroit area, been trying to come up with different ideas for different things to do. You have your core groups that you typically do. But something big, even outsiders to Detroit, it's the Motor City, baby. So why not tie into the classic car community? So something big I'm trying to incorporate into next year is doing some type of car show down at Comerica Park before a game. No reason why we can't bring in, a separate community into a baseball game. Aside from that, another bucket that I'm really passionate about working with right now and laying really good groundwork for is the sneaker community. So I'm not sure if there's any other sneakerheads out there like me that has to go get the newest Jordans that come out. But Detroit has a pretty well-known scene for that. So connected with a guy on putting together a sneaker expo at a game next year and, finding a way that not only bring in people from the Detroit community, but surrounding communities, maybe Chicago, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, and, finding different ways to do something like that rather than just relying on, hey, after this pandemic, what if we can bring a Little League baseball team out with, maybe 50% of the kids' parents are comfortable with them going, and the other 50% don't want them to go in public. So why not look at something more broad spectrum and do something like that? So, kind of big piece there, chime in. Would love to hear anybody else's, maybe creative ideas that they've come up with for looking into 2021 or later on this season.
Yeah, it sounds like you have a friend, Kyle, is a sneakerhead, so you guys got to connect.
No, I think, Nick, you brought two very unique, good points in terms of different categories. So I had a colleague last year when I used to work for the NFL and the Miami Dolphins, and she was able to cultivate a relationship with the sneaker industry. And my gosh, that event brought in 1,300 tickets. I was blown away. 1,300 tickets. So definitely shout out to her. The other thing too, and I'm gonna let Roy speak on it a little bit. One of the things that Roy and I we started working on is looking into the car industry. Roy, talk a little bit about what you and I discussed a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, thanks, Thomas. So yeah, pretty much what we were talking about is very similar to what you just described in terms of doing like an auto show here at the BB&T Center. So down here we have the Florida Auto Dealers Association. So it's something that since we just recently spoke about it, I reached out to them within the past 2 weeks and got a contact for who actually runs the auto show that they put on. So we were talking about doing one either here in the parking lot, obviously taking advantage of that Florida weather that you get during the middle of the season, but also being able to possibly do one here in the off season as well, whatever that off season does look like now. So obviously when we take the ice down, the ice is down for a while, and we do have the opportunity to bring in different things onto the floor. So looking at even possibly doing an auto show that utilizes the inside of the building here in the summer. So we're getting the wheels in motion, no pun intended on that. And just trying to get in touch with the Florida Auto Dealers Association and working with some also classic car clubs, if you want to call it that, in the area to make something like that happen.
Awesome. Other ideas of categories? And
yeah, I had a question for you, Denise, and I had a question for Thomas.
yeah, go
especially being in Florida, is two categories. One's being tourism. I know Detroit. I'm with the Detroit Pistons, and tourism isn't on the high. People aren't really going to Detroit for like to take tours or do anything like that, but they do a lot of conventions. And I don't know, in Florida, you guys have a lot of conventions. Like, how do you hit those conventions? How do you get to the right contact so you can get like maybe an offer out to them? Yeah. Something that when you have a home game that they're able to go to that after their convention's over with.
Yeah, Brandon, that's an awesome question. So you have to build a relationship or become members of your travel and tourism association, right? So I'm going to pass this over to John Pettinelli. He's a cool kid among us. John was able to unravel a great association that we had a meeting with. John, if you want to talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Thomas. So I connected with the Florida Restaurant and Lodging Association. So within the state, there's about 20 regions and there's about 10 directors. So kind of the same thing. So Palm Beach, Broward, and Miami-Dade are the largest counties. So each of those counties has about 800 or so members. And then kind of their breakdown of their organization is kind of members, is kind of restaurants, You have obviously the lodging people, and then kind of the vendors, so they call them the affiliates. So those three components kind of make up the association as well. So they do a number of events right now. What they're doing is coming up with ways to, sharing best practices for what they're doing to stay in business right now. And they also have some education and government initiatives as well. So they're really helped focused on keeping those companies, getting them started and keeping and growing their business. That's really the focus of them, as opposed to like the Miami Beach Convention Center, which is just kind of like more of a directory. So they're more kind of vested in the business. So we've been discussing bringing various events to BB&T next year, and obviously they have enough members where they do those types of events. So that's something we're looking at for next season.
Other teams that have success with tourism, that's a great one. I know it's a topic people had wanted to talk about too.
Well, Denise, this is Steve with the Coyotes. That's one of the categories I was going to mention. Every market's different. For us in Arizona, we have a lot of snowbirds, whether from Canada or from the Midwest or, the northern states. So for us, that category is huge. The RV parks, the 55 plus retirement communities. That's one category that we focus a lot of and strive to bring as much revenue as possible. The majority of these groups are, renting out the 57-person, luxury buses and bringing their residents out to a game multiple times throughout the course of the year.
What other groups do you guys work with then, Steve, to maximize that category? Are you a part of, the Convention and Visitors Bureau, or just like Thomas was talking about the travel and tourism? Like, what other groups are you a part of that we maybe haven't mentioned?
Yeah, so Scheibner was associated with a couple of those organizations with the Arizona State Travel and Tourism Association. For us out here in Arizona, a lot of things are commercialized. So like Blue Star Resorts owns like 7 different communities out here. So once you get in with one, then it's easier to get in with all the other organizations. So having just the relationships with those, and then also the golf courses as well. Arizona is known for a ton of golf courses. So golf membership nights, things like that is what we focus on. One of the things too I was going to suggest in regards to categories is it's an exercise that I like to do with my team on anybody that's coming in. It's part of the group sales training that we do is picture like a spider web, like you draw yourself in the middle and then you start branching out of things that you like, things that you have passions for. So as part of that training is if I'm a golfer and I list golf as one of my hobbies, I'm more inclined to work harder for this category than another category. So we try to line up categories with each individual rep that they have a passion for, because they're going to work harder for that. Mm-hmm. So if it's faith-based, if it's education, et cetera, that's where we try to line them up. And for the younger reps, we pair them with the veteran reps so then they can learn the process along the way.
And those are very very good points. So Steve is a good friend of the Panthers, and we connect at least once a month, and we kick some ideas around, not just as the leadership team, but also with rep to rep. So it's very good ideas and everything. One of the things that we do when we think about categories, so we talk about the major categories in terms of healthcare, finance, real estate, legal, but a unique category is actually theme nights, right? So theme nights is a category that we've taken full advantage of. And what I like to do is I'm going to pass this over to Vandy. Vandy has done an excellent job with us, a couple of his major theme nights as it relates to Star Wars. You also have Star Wars? You also have Grateful Dead, First Responders. Roy, Ryan, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Thomas. I appreciate that. So as Thomas mentioned, a lot of what I do for the Panthers is I run and coordinate a lot of our big theme nights, whether it's Star Wars, Grateful Dead, First Responders. A lot of that stuff kind of falls under me. So one of the things that I've been doing recently, since a lot of my bread and butter, you could say, comes from theme nights, is coming up with ideas on how to kind of convert these events into a post-COVID event for a theme night where, we could still have like our Grateful Dead night. We have a cover band come in, place is packed to the brim. Obviously, with today's circumstances, not going to be able to kind of
do that per se. So really what I would like to hear is, have any teams out there kind of been thinking down the road about some big events that they have, whether it's a military night, a first responders night, that brings in a big ticket base for them, year over year, and how they might kind of go forward to change that event to also be a big hit for them when, kind of we get back to some sort of normalcy. But as you know, those restrictions are still going to be in place. So that's what I'm curious about. So if anybody had any feedback, I'm definitely all ears.
Good question. Anybody have thoughts on that?
Well, this is Sarah with the Sound Tigers. I know that we just discussed canceling all of our theme nights and giveaways just because of capacity. If we want to promote one big night for military appreciation, then we might have more than we can have capacity in our building. So that's kind of our game plan going forward.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And that's kind of what I've heard with a lot of other teams that I've connected with already. So like I said, not going to shy away from it, but I'll stick my face in a propeller blade and kind of figure out the hard way. So
is there a way to, even if you have limited capacity, sell the, sell some tickets and then sell, if you have a Grateful Dead, a post-game concert, sell that as a virtual experience that, yes, I can watch the game on TV, but for a limited price, maybe my ticket is $40 to come to the game, see the concert and get the t-shirt, but to get the t-shirt and watch the concert, it's only $15 or $10, or, is there a way to create that virtual experience if you are bringing in a band that allows you to do something? That's just throwing stuff out there. I'm sure you guys have thought maybe about that.
No, and I there you go. No, I like it a lot. One of the things that is hopefully going to work to our advantage is for our Grateful Dead night. We do it at the beginning and the tail end of the season. So one of the things that I was thinking about is when we get a little bit more information on capacity and what we can and can't do in the building, is basically creating a priority list, getting that out ahead of time, telling people these are X amount of spots that can fill up this event because it goes very quick. And then, have people register for kind of an advanced notice list for our secondary night. That way we're still capturing them, when we go down the road a year, 2 years from now, when hopefully things are back to some sort of normal. Then I just cast a wider net from there to be able to kind of propel the event.
I think it's key to keep these, keep your groups engaged, and especially those that are very theme focused. How do you keeping them engaged in some way, shape, or form would be better than, not in some way. If you've created a group, that's kind of got a following year over year.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of thinking, just kind of brainstorming, thinking about it. I saw there was a soccer team that did they're mailing people a seat and a mini fridge. Mm-hmm. And there was one other item like concession food stuff. So maybe to your point, Ryan, maybe if you did in Denise's idea, if you did a virtual concert, maybe you could still charge some people for the concert at home, but maybe send them a party at home kit so they can watch the concert, but you could still charge them for a Grateful Dead t-shirt and something else, like a nice a party kit package or something like that.
Yeah, no, I like that idea. And even from the cost side of things, we were slated to have our second Grateful Dead night right before all of this kind of shut down. So we're sitting on a lot of jerseys. So that's not exactly a bad thing. We got to get rid of them one way or another. So keep the cost down. I'm sure that'll make Thomas happy.
Please. Now there's an industry that that's always in business, right? And that industry is a couple of them. When you think about South Florida, you want to think about construction and country clubs and golf courses, right? And I know that's in Scott Wolf's wheelhouse as it relates to the construction events that we've done in the past. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Thomas. With my construction, I'm a part of the construction task force with my team. And I've had a lot of, great conversations since my start here with the Panthers back in November, with just a lot of organizations that work in construction, just hearing the ins and outs of their operations. My biggest outing this year was a 425 person event with, it was the Construction Association of South Florida. They really just use it for like a networking event. And they just had it in like an area where we have complimentary food and beverage. So kind of going into next year, and what I've started doing a lot more with these task forces, and it's kind of what you said earlier, Denise, about gaining that kind of like information from like industry leaders, is that I've been going on a few virtual webinars with, whether it's my construction task force or I'm a part of my faith and family as well, and just hearing like what they're up to, what kind of conversations that they're having with their members. And it builds for a lot of great conversations in the future. I also feel like it's a great touch point as well, because I mean, how often do you have like your rep from a sports team saying like, hey, loved your construction webinar, have no idea what a pre-certification requirement looks like, but happy to be a part of it. Let's do some business next year. And that's been going great so far. And one thing I'm also kind of curious on for next year is having those large groups with a networking kind of purpose, making that either virtual or having like a socially distanced networking event at the stadium during a dark day when we don't have a game, coupled with a ticket to a game the following day or the following weekend.
Great ideas. I love the fact that you're going on webinars for the specific industry or, you know, opportunity. I think that that's something I remember Will Wall mentioned a couple weeks ago, that he was, you know, he focuses on realtors. So he was reading a book on, you know, how a real estate mindset book so that he could get into their head. So I think that's really, and we've got extra time right now. So yeah, there's no reason why we can't jump on some of these industries, or even, you know, if you're in charge of faith-based or in charge of dance or cheer, like get into their world, understand what's going on, what's their challenges, and be able to speak their language is really important. So love that, Scott.
Appreciate it. And I was also curious, has anyone else found success on, I know Will said that a couple weeks ago, but has anyone else found like success or any tips on going on to like other associations or other industry type of webinars?
No one? Anyone?
I highly recommend it then.
Okay.
Very informative.
Yes, absolutely. I would agree. What other questions are out there about categories or other categories that people are working with that we haven't heard be brought up at this point?
So another category that we're working with, it goes back to business, and that is check with your HR director or check with your, you know, vice president of sales. Every sports team belongs to a chamber, right? So as an added benefit of being a chamber member, figure out what levels you are with that chamber, whether it's a gold, platinum, or trustee member, and cultivate that relationship, right? It's very important because chambers, they are in the business of networking, shaking hands, kissing babies. Obviously in the future, we got to change that around a little bit, but at the same time, working with these chambers and getting them to host events and doing a chamber night. People are very, very in tune about meeting different people outside the industry, and there's no better place than to be part of a different chamber.
Yeah, great point.
Hi there, Cassie with the Vancouver Canucks. One of our big focuses is youth groups, and within youth groups are youth hockey and Girl Guides and Scouts. So our Girl Guides night each year is one of our biggest nights of the year. We usually sell about 1,300 tickets. So that's definitely, I mean, a major focus for us, and kind of something that we're exploring for the upcoming year to potentially do over multiple games. They usually do one game a year kind of in the second half of the season, but you know, some ideas from this conversation have popped up in my head of maybe offering their discounted tickets and as well all their benefits throughout a couple games. So definitely something to explore when, you know, we have these groups potentially in the thousands. And I mean, up here in Vancouver, we're likely not going to have many fans in the building. So definitely something to think about.
Absolutely, we have to space out, spread out our fun. Other categories that people are working with or have questions about?
Yeah, I'll go ahead. I'm Brian with Holiday World Theme Park. I'm actually been with the Louisville Bats for about 18 years, so got a ton of experience in the baseball world. One definite area that we really focus on would be the SHRM groups, which are Society of Human Resource Management. And we get involved with as many of those as possible. So in your area, you know, depending on where you are, there may be one for your state, one for your city, um, another one for different regions, but we get involved with those and we work with those HR directors as much as possible. You know, in terms of company outings, in terms of a lot of the manufacturers, those are the people that plan groups, and we do everything we can to take care of those people and make sure that, you know, they've got, you know, access to discounts, access to group information, just really just try to wine and dine them as much as possible to make sure that they've got everything that they need.
Yeah, SHRM's a great group to be a part of, and if you're not already working with them, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, we've done, so when I was with my previous employer, we've done a like human resource breakfast, right? Human resources breakfast, where we invite the top human resource executives in the Tri-County area out to the stadium. And the catch is that we provide them with an opportunity to have to hear from our vice president of human resources. So they get an opportunity to hear from them, learn about best practices in terms of what works, what doesn't work. And then it's a complimentary event, very, very light food and beverage, right? We're talking about, you know, pastries and donuts and, you know, orange juice and coffee or what have you. And then from there, we get an opportunity to talk about ways that their companies could get involved, right? So that's one of the things that we're looking at moving forward with over here as well, working with John Pettinelli. He's putting together a human resource projects, and because there's several different type of human resources association, right? So not only do you have the SHRM, but even within healthcare, even within legal, those are different human resource associations within those industries as well. So very, very good point, Brian.
Other questions for the group or for anyone with regards to categories that they're working on or maximizing or special events specific to categories? Categories you're having a tough time, you know, getting into?
Yeah, I've got a question. This is Joshua with the Orlando Solar Bears. We do a Hockey Fights Cancer Night every year. And so, you know, the medical industry, some of the ways that we've tried to break into to that industry is really just kind of going around to the different hospitals. We've got plenty in the area, and, you know, finding somebody to sit down with and have a conversation with, obviously invite them out, give them a promo link that they can, you know, just post in the hospital, things like that. But I wanted to know, A, if anybody else has any, you know, better ideas that they're doing to get into the medical industry. And then B, again, the Hockey Fights Cancer Night's a pretty big one. You know, nurses are also a little bit more subject to COVID, things like that. Maybe what are you guys doing to make sure if you do have medical groups come out that they're not, you know, causing concern for anybody in the building?
And I think that's a very good question, right? It's hard for us to predict folks' behavior when things get back to normal, right? So one of the things that we've done is that we send out I think I talked about it at the last meeting. We sent out a survey, and overwhelmingly people want to come back to the arena, right? Just want, because a lot of us have this pent up anxiety of like, man, I'm home all day. I want to do something different. I want to do something different. And once we get a green light from the CDC and from the state of Florida and the governor or what have you, then we are full throttle in terms of moving forward. But when we do it, we're going to do it very strategically. When you mentioned nurses, so Nurses Association, they are a home run without a doubt, right? So one of the things that we've done in the past, put together this event called White Coats and Cocktails, which is really, really cool. And that theme is actually patent. So it's White Coats and Cocktails. And here it is, you have an organization of nurses that may not necessarily care about sports, but we provided them with an opportunity to come out and hear from nursing professionals, hear from the experts. So the experts will include the chief nursing officer from a couple of hospitals, will include the dean of nursing from a couple of universities, have them be part of the speaking panel. And now you're giving the nurses a reason to come out. When they come out and check out the speaking panel, you're just baking a ticket price into it, and now you have a win-win. You have uncommon people that does not necessarily care about sports. You're giving them a reason to come out. So that worked out pretty well. Another great industry, without a doubt, a home run, is the technology industry. Technology industry is another one that does very, very well in South Florida. So I definitely challenge you guys to look into that. When you think about technology, look under technology associations. And the best ones is the CIO, right? Chief Information Officers Association. It does exist in your municipalities, in your cities. Just got to do a little bit more Google work and you can find some information out about it. Once you do, connect with the event planner or the president and talk about different ways to build that relationship. Relationship shouldn't have an expiration date, right? So there's different things that they want to do, and then it's just about partnering up and making it happen. As far as like healthcare, the best success that we've gotten with healthcare is every hospital should have a employees activities committee, right? The employees activities committee is a panel of volunteers from the hospital that want to find fun things to do for the employees. So that'd be the best way. If it's not them, then I'll connect with either someone from human resources or someone from marketing.
Any other feedback for Joshua?
Yeah, I'll jump in here as well. Just kind of one of the things that I heard from your question is, how do you make people kind of feel comfortable with bringing, those frontline workers into a crowded space? One of the things that I've worked with a lot of hospitals down here, and one of the conversations that we had in place for last year is we would have employee offer tickets. I'd get with their HR director, somebody that handles events for the hospital, and, pick out a couple games throughout the season. Obviously one around Hockey Fights Cancer Night for us, and then, just a couple other games that people might be more attracted to. But, after having these conversations in kind of a like pandemic sort of world now, connecting with my same people, they don't really have that problem of getting their individuals into the building. They kind of look at it as, if they feel comfortable, they will attend. So that's another thing that we're just going to fight nowadays. So I think just if you've established those relationships with connections with hospitals in your area, or, your organization's biggest health sponsor, to help you kind of propel that and make people feel comfortable about it. That's where I'm at with the whole situation. So that might be something that you could use up there in Orlando.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yep.
And then there was a question posted by Brandon. Does anyone work with AARP? Is anybody working with AARP or had success with them?
Denise, I'll jump in. I have worked with our Connecticut AARP for Brandon. So Brandon, if you want to connect after, hopefully I can try to help you there. But I also wanted to follow up to Josh's, because we're probably in a different situation from like what Ryan's saying, and following up on what Sarah said, like with our plan for next year, we don't want to try to do something next year kind of standard like we always have, that potentially could come back and burn us down the road when things do come back to normal, because we don't want to come off as having to just say we call it Stick It to Cancer Night, and being able to have it viewed as we are trying to push people who might have some sort of compromising immune disease or something like that to a large gathering of people. So we don't want to come off as insensitive in that kind of way, or trying to ask people to come who probably are going to be more uncomfortable. And we have had conversations with especially a lot of our larger nonprofits and cancer organizations in the area, like ACS, and they kind of share the same sentiment, that they want to be involved, they want to bring their people out, but they don't want to be pushing them until there is a known vaccine and it is truly safe to come, because they look at that as then they're putting their organization's neck on the line, that they're viewed as possibly pushing people to an unsafe environment as well too. So that's part of the other reason why, from our organization's perspective, excuse me, we're looking at it as we're going to, by no means are we punting on next year. We want to do everything that we can, obviously, depending on our capacity situation and state and local health guideline situation, to be able to bring people out. But we want to make sure that we're using this time to continue building those relationships really for the future, and making sure that when things do come back to normal, that we're as set up for even more success as possible, and not doing something this year in a short term with so much unknowns around that might end up hurting us further down the road.
Good point. There's a lot of angles right now.
Yeah.
So we're coming close to the end of the hour. Are there other questions or other comments that people wanted to chime in? Feel free to jump in.
Yeah, I have a question. And it was kind of off what Dan just said about kind of being insensitive. I was thinking the last couple of days about, for hockey, maybe like from the front line to the blue line. So like essential workers during this time, getting some sort of reward from like their like company or managers. I was just curious if anyone's thought of like having people that work in like supermarkets or really just any of like the essential businesses that have remained open during the whole pandemic. If people have had any like ideas or anything. I know about like a couple months ago, Brendan and I talked about, graduation ceremonies and also hospitals, but he was thinking of the Pistons potentially having maybe like complimentary tickets for that, but any other teams are thinking about doing anything like that?
Great question.
Yes, Scott, we've done a little bit of brainstorming on that, myself and a couple other reps on our team. As of now, we don't really have much concrete plans, but certainly thinking more like frontline workers in the pandemic. Obviously you automatically think like hospital workers, nurses, doctors and such, but to grab like those grocery store workers and, people that have to mask up and, be working during this whole time. Really, as far as we've gotten is thinking of, having some theme night for them, maybe having like a BOGO deal or something like that for them, where we'd send out essentially a link that they're able to use, that private link, to get their tickets and access them. I mean, obviously that breaks down to sometimes you give away free tickets to people that are lying about getting the tickets, but nonetheless, that's kind of where we're at this point, but definitely a great idea. And I think an idea that a lot of people could generate some new revenue off of.
Awesome. Yeah. Appreciate it. Thank you.
This is Rachel over with UNLV, but we have transitioned our Seats for Service campaign to be essential worker friendly as well. So we are offering that to season ticket holders and fans to donate to this campaign to offer complimentary tickets to people who are still working.
Awesome. Love that, Rachel.
Yeah, love that too.
Yeah, we're actually doing something kind of similar to that too, what Rachel spoke on. Really cool program. Anybody that kept their money on for their season tickets or their group outing or anything is able to donate a certain amount of tickets to frontline workers of their choice, whether that be a hospital or whatever it may be. So really cool program there.
And are those, Nick, complimentary tickets that you guys are providing because they've kept their money on account?
Yeah. So essentially they would be able to come in and be like, hey, we want to donate 25 tickets to Beaumont Hospital, and be able to send them straight over there.
That's awesome. Very cool idea. Any other ideas on categories or category specific questions or ideas?
I think the last one, and this is like an obvious one, but is the education. So we have an education task force, and there is like a slew of associations underneath education, right? So you have the PTAs, the PTSAs, you have the teachers union, you have the band association, you got cheer and dance, you have the bus drivers association, you have the mechanics association. So definitely the education is certainly a good opportunity to identify some pretty large promising groups.
Yes, much agreed. we could go on for days talking all about the specifics and the little groups within the groups. But I want to say thank you to Thomas and to his entire team for sharing their ideas, and for everyone that chimed in. We really appreciate it. As I mentioned at the top, we're going to talk corporate groups on Tuesday, but I think I know we talked a lot about corporate right now. I think some of the spin we want to talk about on Tuesday is, how do you work with your corporate partnership team to maximize group opportunities? What does that conversation look like? And then we can go in more in depth in specific corporate realms and who are the specific people you're talking with to make those groups happen. So that's our goal for Tuesday. The recap of this will be up by then. And then if you have ideas or you want topics that you want to throw out here, please message me so that we can put that topic on the radar. It doesn't mean that you have to be a focal point or focal point speaker. We can definitely just throw a topic out and everyone can chime in. So don't be afraid that if you mention the topic that you're gonna have to be tied to it. And the link for next week to register is now out there on the chat as well. So congrats to the Panthers on their win. Sorry, Dan and Sarah, but you guys are still in it, right? And I saw Carolyn pointed out go Yotes, because the Yotes are now up, right? So we love this hockey during the day. So enjoy the sports that are live right now. Thank you again, and we will talk next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate all
Thanks,
of
guys.
you.